Welcome to the newest edition of the Hakuna Licata Podcast. I'm your host and Jefe, Brian Licata. On the HLP, we dive into the lives of humans that I find to be most interesting. Today, it gives me great pleasure to introduce my friend, Alan Wright. Alan has been a professional jiu-jitsu fighter for most of his life. He's also a mixed martial artist, a friend of mine in recovery, a spiritual guru, loves meditation, and I think he's had his fair share of psychedelic experience as well. Today, I'm just going to, dive into really anything that we got. Pretty much what I just said is all I had written down. So me and Alan are going to get right into it. So Alan, I guess you have anything you want to say real quick?
Nah, just that, I'm somebody that's been an athlete most of my life. I've been wrestling since I've been 4 years old, and then got into addiction after a car accident. But, I've been an athlete in and out my whole life.
So what, so you said you got in a car accident. How old were you when that car accident happened?
It's like 2008, so I was like 20-something years old.
And you're what, 31 right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of had like a somewhat of a similar experience. I started using painkillers when I was in college. I wasn't really in an accident or anything like that, but, I came across them and eventually, the pills got too expensive, which I'm sure your story is pretty similar.
Yeah.
It took me down the road of heroin. But let's talk about what you're doing right now instead of getting focused on all that bad shit that we've done in the past. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, I know absolutely nothing about jiu-jitsu, nothing about mixed martial arts. I took Alan, had a free class over at his gym, 609 Jiu-Jitsu, the other day, and it was a free Muay Thai class. And, personally in this journey that I'm on right now, I've been trying to, really work, like, my body and my mind and my spirit. And, like, the one thing I always lack on is my body.
Yeah.
I tell people I don't like to sweat. I think 8:30 is the perfect wake-up time. So, like, waking up and early and going to the gym is just, like, not my bag at all.
Yeah. I mean, the people always forget, a lot of people, the body, the physical part, you know what I mean? And Muay Thai is a great thing for people in early recovery, people in, long-term recovery. And it's the reason is because it's a high-intensity workout. It's not like, you're just going to a class, and Muay Thai is, throwing the kicks, the punches, and you're pushing yourself. You also have a partner usually you're hitting the pads with.
Right.
And being able to push yourself past your limit, you know what I mean? If you're in the gym just doing curls by yourself, even if you're doing it with somebody, you're really not, it's hard to push yourself past that limit. And when you do the Muay Thai and, push past that limit, you end up leaving feeling, more mentally clear. People would think you have less energy. I just worked out, and now I'm tired now. Like, most of the times I go to jiu-jitsu or Muay Thai, and afterwards I feel like Superman. Like, I have tons of energy,
Yeah, dude, I was driving. Me and my buddy Tim went up there, and I apologized to him already, but I gave him a knee to the face, and I was like, the only, like, good move I have, I think, is my hard right knee, and I fucking clocked him with it.
Yeah.
But I told him, like, we stopped and we got gas at the Wawa right around the corner. I was like, dude, I'm fucking amped up.
Yeah.
And I don't like working out, man. Like, the only real thing I like to do is play a little basketball, which I'm not very good at, but, like, it gets my body going. But after I'm done playing ball, I'm gassed.
Yeah.
But, like, it wasn't like that when I did that Muay Thai class the other day. Like, and even the next day, I wasn't really, like, sore. I just used a whole bunch of muscles that I probably never used, and I was just, like, gassed up, ready to go. And we were just talking about before we started recording that I'm probably going to come out to another one of your classes, I think either this Wednesday or Thursday.
Yeah.
So, like, how did you get into, like, Muay Thai and, like, in martial arts? You said you started as a wrestler. Like, what was your childhood wrestling career like?
Started wrestling when I was 4 years old and did really well, and a lot of it, it blocked out what was going on at home because I had a rough, home life growing up, and my only outlet really was wrestling. And when you're on, and me for doing things that, you know what I mean, you don't have to think about anything else. Like, I was addicted to doing that because it took away that pain temporarily.
Right, it gets you outside yourself, man. Like, the only thing you're focused on is really, like, that goal.
Yeah, and the other thing, going back a little bit about the Muay Thai, you're releasing, for people in early recovery, you're releasing those endorphins in your brain that are helping you. It's proven that exercise helps your brain heal. They say for an addict, it could be up to like 12 to 18 months for your brain to fully heal.
No shit, I'm beat then, dude.
No, but what I'm saying is it expedites that process, it speeds it up, and it's all around good for people in recovery. Not just people in recovery, man. A lot of people are used to working in cubicles, or they drive, they're behind the wheel all day, and we're not meant as human beings to be doing jobs like that. meant to be out hunting, out, you know what I mean, you know, searching for food, and you know, doing something that's hard is very important for overall like lifestyle.
Yeah, I was actually on a buddy of mine's podcast, Mr. Josie. He's got the Empowerment Perspective podcast, and we were talking about like self-manufactured like stress or trouble, and he's talking about how with his kids, if he like, because everything's given to us so easily these days, right? And he asked me if I kind of like looking back on it, if there was any like if I had more struggle in my life, maybe I wouldn't have fallen down the road I was in. And I told him, I was like, you know, I don't really want to think about what like could have changed to make it different, because I can drive myself crazy doing that. Like I went down the road I went down, and like that's it. I try not to look into it any, because it really doesn't matter. You know what I'm trying to say? Like it's just the shit that happened to me, and I just got to accept it for what it is, and not like think about like, oh well, what if I would have did this differently? But like to kind of circle it around to what you were saying is like you know, we live in a society now where if you need a pound of ground beef, you just go up to Walmart, buy a pound of ground beef, and fry it up in your pan. You don't have to go out there and go hunting. So I think there's a lot of validity to what you're saying, that like you know, our bodies are really meant to be roaming around, searching for food, hunting, killing, and then bringing it back, and that effort is really lost. And I wonder if you know, that's why I think doing some sort of martial art or any really sort of physical activity is important, just to keep our body moving.
Yeah.
So like you started out wrestling. Did you do that up like through high school?
I did it from kindergarten until 8th grade, and I was always too big. They had a weight limit for football, so I was always too big to play football.
Wait, you were too big to play football, like pee-wee football?
Yeah, now they have a PAL league where like bigger kids can play and everything like that.
That's fucking crazy. See, the reason I didn't play football, I think, is because I didn't weigh enough.
Yeah.
So we were both like, you know, if we put us together, we might have been like one good football player.
Yeah. No, but so the wrestling, you know what I mean, and the wrestling is a team sport, but I think football is more of a team sport because you're actually on the field
right
with your teammates, and I never had that type of connection. So I was still kind of isolating, still kind of solo, you know what I mean, except for practice. I'd be at practice, go home, isolate again. And when I finally hit high school, I was sick of sitting at tournaments all day. I was a heavyweight, so I was like the last one to go. So I'd be at tournaments anywhere from, you know what I mean, 5, sometimes like 10 hours at tournaments waiting to wrestle. You know what I mean?
It's like going to my cousin's cheerleading competitions.
Yeah.
They're like the last group on, and you got like 15 more in front of you. It's a
Yeah.
pain in the ass.
So when I hit high school, I said, you know, forget wrestling, I'm going to play football. And I didn't know really anything about football. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I ended up playing offensive and, well, first defensive tackle, and then they forced me to play offense. I didn't want to play offense. Thought it was boring. I can't hit nobody. But my coach was like, if you don't play offense, you're not playing defense.
So what position he put you in?
Offensive tackle. So I just basically played offense.
Pushing people around.
Yeah, I played offense like I played defense. I was just smashing people, trying to pancake them, you know what I mean, hit them hard, and just, you know, go on to the next dude and hit him. You know what I mean? That's how I played. And all through that, I was powerlifting. So I did a lot of powerlifting. I had this guy, Jay McKean, was my friend's dad, was one of my powerlifting coaches when I was young. And I actually started that 7th and 8th grade is when I started that. I went to the Junior Olympics, got second place at the Junior Olympics.
What type of lift were you doing? Is it just like, I don't even know what powerlifting
Mostly
is.
I did bench and deadlift. You know, and by the time I was at my peak, I was benching 425 and deadlifting 705 in high school, you know.
No shit.
And for football, you want to be bigger, and you know, that was kind of an advantage for me, playing offensive, defensive tackle. But then when I did start doing martial arts, what it did was it hurt me. It didn't help me. You know?
What do you mean it hurt you?
For one, like benching that much weight, flat bench. Basically, you should never do flat bench. I didn't know that back then. You know what I mean? Because it's hard on your. There's a move called Americana in Jiu-Jitsu. It's a shoulder lock.
Okay.
And basically, you're pretty much giving yourself an Americana when you're flat bench, and your shoulder's not meant to.
So you're putting yourself in like that lock position.
Yeah, you're putting yourself in that, and you got to pause while you're doing the powerlifting, and then they say press, and that's how the competition goes.
Right,
you know?
how they judge it.
So you can have 400 pounds on your chest, and then you're jerking it up. It's so bad for your shoulders. It's like, and you know, in high school, I'm a young kid, 17, 18 years old.
Yeah, and your body's still developing.
And I can't sleep because my joints were just, you know, laying on my side, and plus being heavy like that, 300 pounds.
Right.
I'm laying on my side and lifting like that, and plus smashing pads every day. It wasn't good for my body whatsoever. And then when I started doing, Muay Thai mostly, I really felt it because I was, trying to throw punches. I'm trying to throw kicks.
When did the Muay Thai like come into play? Like how old were you when you started?
Right after high school. Well, I actually went to college for a year up at Nassau playing football, and ended up come home and got right into. Somebody recommended this guy Joe Diamond, and it was over at Oceanside Gym in Egg Harbor Township. And I remember just going in there and doing the Muay Thai class, and I wasn't athletic enough to throw the kicks into the body. I was kicking straight up.
Right.
I didn't have the movement.
So
I wasn't a complete athlete. I was basically a power lifter who played football.
Yeah, who just like trying to show you how to throw Muay Thai moves. You're just a big dude, and they're just trying to like, all right, well, this dude can probably whoop somebody's ass, so let's like try to teach him how to do it.
Yeah, and and then we did the jiu-jitsu. And the jiu-jitsu is more the groundwork, the wrestling that I did my whole life, and I was like owning people that were higher level belts, brown belts, purple belts. But I wasn't submitting them. I just could put them on their back, pass their guard, slice through, and just lay on top of them. I didn't know submissions. You know what I mean? So I did. But even then, I was more tired because the technique these guys had, it was pretty hard to like. I would figure out a way to pass their guards, like get around them. But it took me a lot of time and energy, and I used a lot of strength. Wrestling's all about power and strength. You know what I mean? And I would just hold them there. But then, once I found a guy that was also like a D1 wrestler who was also a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and I got completely owned. And when that happened, I was like, oh my God, this is like magic. You know what I mean? I was like, this is crazy. Like when I first started rolling with some high-level guys, I was like, I got to learn this. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Now you said you got in your car accident. That's kind of like when all the drugs came into play. Like what's like the time frame on this? Like were you doing this Muay Thai stuff like when you got in this car accident? Like where I'm just trying to figure out like where your addiction kind of took off.
I won. That's another big thing in my life. That's another big thing in my life. I got ended up getting married at a young age, and I ended up after that I left Joe Diamond and went with Virgil Hill. Virgil Hill is like a 5-time world champion boxer. You know what I mean? He fought some of the best guys in the world. And just the way he trained people was completely different. You know what I mean? I've never seen anything like it. And I was in the best shape of my life. And I ended up winning, just training out of his garage, basically, at his house.
No shit.
With a handful of guys, like 5 guys. And I ended up winning an amateur title. I cut from 260 pounds with him to 205 pounds or 209 pounds for an amateur title.
What?
Yeah. Doing a ketogenic diet. Even back then, I was doing a ketogenic diet.
Right.
Back in 2008, and cut down. And even the day of, I was still like a pound over. So I had to sit in the hot tub, and cutting weight like that is worse than withdrawal. Like that.
Oh, it's gotta be horrible.
That pain in your stomach, that feeling, that the burn. I'm in a sauna, in the sauna with an exercise bike, in the sauna with a sweatsuit on, trying to cut these last couple of pounds.
It's gotta be so bad for your health too. I mean, you probably feel like you gotta throw up all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I went hypoglycemic, not that time, but another time trying to cut down. That means there was no sugar in my body.
Right.
And it was just scary.
You just need like a shot of insulin.
Well, I was like, I need like an ice cream sundae or something. And I remember I was running on the treadmill, and I started seeing shadows behind people, like tripping kind of. You know
I've had that one, meth-induced psychosis before.
Yeah, and then it felt like somebody reached up and grabbed my heart. I couldn't take a breath. I thought I was having a heart attack. I was like, fuck. I was like, what is this? And then I fell, and then I was like, all right, it went away a little bit. I'm like, okay, I'm okay. And then I went to put my hand on the side of the treadmill on the railing and stand up again. I'm like, I'm good. And then my legs started going crazy
Just
again.
ate shit?
Boom, hit the ground. So I
probably broke the fucking treadmill.
Yeah, so I had to call that fight off because there was no way. They ended up calling me like, oh yeah, we'll just make it heavyweight, and I was like, there's no way. Like,
your body was probably just torched by then.
Yeah, for the next 2 days, I felt like out of it. You know?
Right, loopy. I mean, if your sugar levels are low.
My legs weigh like 100 pounds each, man. There's like no way.
Yeah, I'm looking at them, dude. They look like tree trunks.
Yeah, people don't realize, so they'll look at me. I have like jeans on. They're like, what do you weigh? Like $180? I'm like, what? I'm like, dude, I'm 260, 255.
That's how much you weigh right now? 255?
255.
Yeah, you got like 85 pounds on me.
Yep.
So yeah, like I was saying, I want to get back to like that car accident. Like how did like things kind of take off for you?
I was actually on my way to Virgil's house to go train.
And how old are you roughly when this is going on?
2008. I'm 31 now. So what, 20?
It's like 9 years ago.
Yeah.
That's kind of like when I started, 2008, 2009.
Yeah. And I'm on my way to Virgil's to go train. And I had another amateur title fight against this dude, Mike Andrillo. And I was, on the way, and I had a green light, and I seen like a red blur to my left, and I'm in a little tiny Civic. My big ass is crammed in a Civic. And I seen her coming, man, and she was flying. She was in a Suburban, and she just ran the red light and just I couldn't. There was a huge oak tree to my right, so I couldn't swerve. I died hitting the oak tree, so I was like, fuck it, I'll just take it. Boom.
So you took it on your driver's side, right?
Yeah, right on the driver's side. And knocked me out for a second. I knew I had a concussion. Immediately felt dizzy.
I'm sure you know what concussions feel like.
Yeah, that's another thing we can get into. I'm fucked up. So crawling out of the car, I'm throwing up, and everybody's running up to me like, "Are you all right? Are you all right?" And when I'm hurt, I hate when people talk to me. I don't know why. Like
of course.
Don't say anything. Don't ask me if I'm all right. Like I hate like people trying to talk to me. I'm like, just let me deal with it.
Right.
And that's how I felt. And the lady gets out of her car, and her car wasn't that messed up. It was a big Suburban, like I said, big old Suburban. And she's like, "Did I hit you?" I'm like, "Oh my god."
It was an old chick?
Yeah. Well, she was born in 1921, bro.
Oh, okay, driving. Yeah. So she's pretty old.
Yeah. And
like 89.
The window. Oh, that's the other thing. Trying to get out of the car, my door was smashed. There's no way it was gonna open.
Right, shut.
I hit it with my shoulder, trying to blast it open, and I was already cut on my shoulder from like deep from the window or the door or whatever. And when I hit it, it split it. I could feel it rip. So,
you got a big scar on your shoulder?
Yeah. So I could feel it rip. And I'm like, fuck. All I could think about is I had a fight coming up, you know what I mean? And I was training so hard. I was in great shape. And this goes into, I'm actually still in the hospital. I was supposed to train a doctor that day. And that I was training him and his wife. I don't want to get into too many details, about his anonymity or whatever.
Yeah, of course.
But I'm training him and his wife at the house. Didn't even know what kind of doctor he was. And when I didn't show up to train him, he called me and he's like, "Where were you?" I'm like, "Dude, I got in a bad car accident."
Did you go to the hospital?
Yeah. I was in the hospital when he called me.
Right.
And he's like, "Dude, I didn't know what kind of doctor he was." Like I said, and he's like, "I'm an anesthesiologist.
Okay.
And I'm a pain management doctor. Come to my office.
Solid choice, dude.
I'll help you out."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I go there, and immediately he prescribes me Rococet and Xanax. And I was in severe pain, and what I didn't realize, it was spiritual and emotional pain too. We can get into that.
Right.
The whole thing is, when I took that, it not only killed the pain, it was like putting a security blanket around me. All my problems were just like, it was okay. You know what I mean? I didn't have to think about it. It numbed everything. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And once I had that taste of that Rococet, it was over. You know what I mean? I was like going to 3 different doctors. This is before the database was created. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I was using my health insurance for one, and then my car insurance for another one.
What do you mean your car insurance?
Your car insurance. And I didn't know this. This is all shit the doctor put me on.
Right.
You know what I mean? Didn't know it. So your car insurance will pay for your visit and your script. So it was illegal what I was doing, but I don't know what the statute of limitations are on this, but anyway, it was illegal.
No one's probably gonna listen to it anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Whatever, who cares? But so this pharmacy is an online pharmacy.
Right.
They send you your script in the mail.
So they're sending you Roxy's in the mail?
Yeah. So I was not only getting a script from one doctor,
right.
I was going to him and getting another script, and they were sending it in the mail.
Filled through the mail.
And not only that, I was paying cash for another doctor too. So
right.
3
okay. So you're hitting it from all 3 sides.
At one point, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of, my story's a little bit different. I was in college, and I always tell the story. I remember it was Columbus Day weekend in 2009.
Yeah.
And I was messing around with like Adderall and Xanax, like in college, not necessarily in high school, but I came home for a trip. And for some reason, I went in the medicine cabinet at my parents' house, and my brother had a script of Perk 5s when he got his wisdom teeth taken out. So this is probably the only time this has ever happened that I put them in a car and actually drove 4 hours without touching them. Further on in my addiction, I wouldn't even like leave the cop spot without doing something first. So it just kind of shows like how things change and how progressive it gets. And so I grabbed these pills and I drive all the way down to my buddy's house in Maryland, and I'm like, "Yo, can we take these? Like, will these get us fucked up? Like, I didn't even know what they were." So we take them, and then that was on like a Monday or a Tuesday that I took my first Perk 5, And then that Friday, Saturday, I went back down to his hometown and we were sniffing Oxy 80s. Yeah. And it really like took off from there. I remember the first time I had money at the time. I was selling weed and you know, just doing some other odds and end bullshit. I was working at Domino's. But I was coming back on the Cape May Lewis ferry, and every time I get on that ferry now, the only thing I can think of is withdrawing for the first time. I had no idea what was happening, and I called my buddy. I'm like, "Yo, dude, I'm sick. Like, why do I feel like this?" He's like, "Well, dude, when was the last time you took one of those pills?" Like, I don't know, probably like yesterday around like 2:00. He's like, "Dude, you're withdrawing." I'm like, yo, this is fucked up, man. I had no idea that like you got sick from not taking them, because I had money enough where I could always do like a little bit every day. And like at that time, I could make it 80 last like a week. And, you know, like towards the end, I'm doing like 2 or 3 of them. And then, you know, they stopped making them. So I get back on the Roxys. And then it's really just been a fucking whirlwind since then.
Yeah, you always remember the first time you go through withdrawal. You know what I mean? I didn't know what it was. I didn't know. I had a cousin that I loved to death, and he was a heroin addict. My mom's always like, stay away from him.
Right, of course.
And I could never understand it, but he was a good dude, man. When he was sober, he took me out on a surfboard when I was little, like, you know, and cool as hell. Like, he was like a big brother to me, you know what I mean? And but I always knew he had that side to him. I just never really saw it.
Right.
So that's the only person I ever really was around that was like a heroin addict. And I remember I was laying in bed with my ex-wife, and I took the Roxys for about, as prescribed, for about 5-6 days. That's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I woke up, or I didn't even go to sleep. I'm like tossing and turning. My legs are kicking. I'm sweating. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, you know, am I getting the flu? And then, you know, I went to the bathroom. I saw my script taken there. I'm like, or sitting there. I'm like, I'm going to take one. You know what I mean? And within 30 minutes, I'm right to sleep. I'm like, fuck. I woke up the next morning like, this is withdrawal. This is it.
Dude. Yeah, you don't know. I mean, like I always heard about being dope sick, but I didn't actually know what it was. You know what I mean? And that just goes to show you, man, even taking those pills for 3, 4, 5 days, like you're going to get that physical habit. And, you know, not everyone's like us. Like, you know, some people don't necessarily, like, you can get physically dependent on those pills and not be a drug addict. Like, anybody, if they take enough opiates, is going to be physically dependent. It's like what happens when you're off of them that makes you a drug addict, in my opinion, you know?
I mean, I don't care who you are. Take, you know, 4 rocks at 30s, you know, for 5 days straight, 3 times a day, you know what I mean? Or take 1 3 times a day, as prescribed on the bottle, and then don't take them that next day and see what happens.
Exactly. You're going to be sick.
Yeah, you're going to be sick.
But I think what really differentiates us from, like, you know, normal people who do that, like, even a normal person will get that physical dependence. It's what happens when you put them down and you start thinking about them. I don't think normal people have that. And
it's not, in my opinion, it's not about normal people. It's about you know, I think it's a spiritual disease, you know what I mean?
Right.
And you know, there's no way to really classify something spiritual as like a medical condition, you know what I mean?
No, dude, because there's no scientific, there's really no scientific evidence of it. It's like the same thing with the shit, like me and Alan are in AA together, and it's like the shit we do, there's no scientific evidence, like there's no concrete shit, but you just like look at how our lives have changed. Like, you know, I'll go back 7 months ago, almost 8 months ago now. I was sitting behind a dumpster in East Camden smoking crack, and that was like my last fix. And now I'm working in the treatment field. You know, I'm real active with my family. I'm finally starting to get a little money together, and like I'm trying to start this podcast right now. And like I never would have been able to do that if I was like sitting back there smoking rock. So like, although there's no like concrete evidence of it, like there's physical proof. Like, if that makes any fucking sense, like there's physical proof. Like, I can't tell you why it works or how it works, but it's just it's working, and that's the only evidence that I need.
Yeah, I was out and I did a lot of stuff, you know what I mean? I was out in Pleasantville robbing drug dealers, and I fight, you know what I mean? So it's not
if I saw you in the hood, bro, I'd be like, here, just take it.
Well, there's a lot of police presence out there, and they know what's going on. You know what I mean? And so their guns they're close, but they're never on them.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'm like, one leg kick for me from anybody, even a lightweight, one leg kick.
Yeah, I saw you throwing him in the gym the other day.
It's over for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One guy actually knew I fought, so like he kind of like. I was lazy. I was dope sick. So I didn't set the leg kick up. I just wanted to throw it, and he dodged it. He's like, oh, see, I know some shit, too. I threw like a jab, and that didn't hit him, and then I feinted a left hook. So when he circled right into the leg kick and just dropped him. Boom, and I was out. Doop, you got to leave for the cops come.
Right.
So me out there doing stuff like that, and not only that, like, like officers I know and stuff, they'll see me out there, and I know like it would just kill me even more. You know what I mean? Like I just know I'm doing the wrong thing, and just that, you know, how horrible you feel. Like, but it's like you're just a machine at that point. Like you just get up and just you go. You know, it's your addiction.
It takes complete hold of you, and it's really like, I mean, you were kind of talking about it earlier. It's like we're good people. You're talking about your cousin who like taught you how to surf.
Yeah.
And it's like if me and you ran into each other in the street, we probably wouldn't have talked to each other.
Yeah.
But like, you know, we met each other out and, you know, being sober and shit like that. And you know, like you invited me to your Muay Thai class, invited me over your house to like get this podcast going today. And it's just like we have good attributes to us. It's just like when all that shit's got a hold of us, like we don't stand a chance.
Yeah, I go from one extreme to the other. Like I'm drinking. You saw the shake that I had today.
Right.
Yeah.
From Alan has the nastiest diet.
It's like kale shakes with ginger and garlic and turmeric and black pepper, all this shit in there. And like I got it now. I'm intermittent fasting. That's another thing. I only eat I stop eating at 10 o'clock at night, and then I don't eat again until 2 p.m.
Right.
So, you know, and then the first thing I want to put in my body is that shake, because it's basically all the vegetables I need for the day.
Right.
And you know you're going to absorb whatever you put in. You know what I mean? So I don't want to put in a McDonald's cheeseburger.
Right, because you feel like shit the whole day.
Yeah. So that's what I eat, and that's all I eat before I go to jiu-jitsu, because I can't really have anything in my stomach while I'm doing jiu-jitsu.
It's just like kind of sit inside of you?
Yeah, but the vegetable shake doesn't. It like absorbs, and you know what I mean? That's why I kind of get the vegetarian thing or the vegan thing. It's like when you eat heavy stuff, it slows you down. Digestion takes up so much energy. And that's the point of the intermittent fasting. Like cells regenerate, they get rid of the waste and regenerate. It does a whole mental clarity. You know what I mean?
Right.
It does a lot for your body. So I go from one extreme to the other. So I could be doing all this healthy stuff, and in a month I could be on the streets in Atlantic City and Pleasantville. So
yeah, dude, it just happens like that.
And I've made the mistake of having everything go good, and you know, that like using that, like my life's going good. I'm going to jiu-jitsu every day. I'm training. I have all these fights coming up. I'm doing good. I don't need to go to meetings as much. I don't need to work on the spiritual side as much. And when I let that, you know, that lapse, eventually it might not get me right away, but it's gonna get you.
Yeah, it's gonna catch up to you.
It's gonna catch up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you were telling me some story, I don't know, a little while ago, about like you had some big fight coming up in one of the casinos or some shit like that, and then like you started getting high like a day or two before, and it fucked you all up.
It wasn't even drugs, it was alcohol, and alcohol was never even really my thing.
Yeah, me neither, but like from shooting meth, I'll drink, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. The whole thing is, and I want to talk about that. That's a whole other thing, man. Like, I ended up I've been on probation pretty much, except for now. I'm finally done, but my whole adult life, you know what I mean?
Right.
From like 17, as soon as I turned 18, probation, you know what I mean? And it wasn't for anything serious. It was just a lot of domestic stuff with my family, a lot of, you know, like problems like that. Never was violent, nothing like that. So anyway, I get court ordered because I was failing drug tests, getting in trouble, and she sent me to. She's like, "You're doing long-term program, 6 months."
Who, the judge?
The judge goes by whatever the PO says. And the PO is like, you know, usually you can sometimes, you know, beat that, but she's like, yeah, long-term treatment, boom. So I had to go to John Brooks in Atlantic City. You know what I mean? And I don't want to talk.
Good old JBRC, dude.
I don't want to talk shit because that ended up being a huge part of my life, but it's a shithole. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean, you know, it's state-run treatment.
Yeah.
But you know, if you need treatment, you need detox. Don't matter where you go. You know, I know people got clean in Kensington at the last stop.
Yeah, we're sleeping on cardboard boxes.
Yeah, dude. But I mean, if you want it, you want it. But yeah, sorry.
This John Brooks thing. All right, so I go in there, dude. I OD'd right before because I knew, you know, you're going into a program, you're probably gonna use hard.
Yeah, you're gonna get it, bro. Unless you're out of money, then you're not gonna go.
Well, me, if I'm out of money, I'm robbing drug dealers. You
right.
know what I mean?
Right.
So the whole thing is, she sends me there. I OD'd the day before. A slump on my neck, hurt the nerve that's already damaging my neck even more. I couldn't do a push-up. My shoulder, everything was destroyed.
Right.
I go in there. I'm like, fuck this. The state-run program. This is bullshit. I'm gonna be in here with a bunch of scumbags. Like, I'm not a scumbag. You know
right.
Yeah,
like, yeah. You're robbing drug dealers, but not a scumbag.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So I go in there and I looked at everything with like a darkness, and I'm not gonna get anything out of this. Then I meet my counselor, you know, and it's this dude. His name's Quincy Rodriguez, right? And I'm like, I can't relate to this this dude. You know what I mean? He's not an addict. First thing I'm gonna ask you, if you're my counselor, are you an addict?
Right.
It's like having a trainer that's never fought before.
Right.
You know
of
what I mean?
course.
In my opinion, but you
Right.
don't know what. So this guy ended up doing 15 years in prison. You know what I mean?
No shit.
And ends up working at John Brooks. Or
Right.
10 years. I forget how many he did. Like
He
at
did a
least
while.
10 years. Yeah.
Okay.
In prison. So this guy is like the most happy, enlightened fucking guy I've ever met, and I'm like, yo, what the hell? Like, what's up? Like, how? You know what I mean? I thought he'd be like hard. You know, I've been in jail. Da da da.
Right.
He wasn't, and then he ended up introducing me into all this stuff, man. Like watching Eric Thomas, Eckhart Tolle, motivational videos in the
Right.
morning, every morning.
And you still do some of that today too, right?
Every day. So this is what when I'm clean and sober.
Yeah.
So this is what happened with him. So he hands me this book. It's called A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle or Eckhart
Right.
Tolle. It's Tolle. I don't know how to
Some
spell
shit
his
like
name.
that.
Yeah. So anyway, it's about being in the present. He also wrote a book called The Power of Now. And
Right, I've read that.
Yeah,
In rehab, of course, but I've read it.
And Quincy gave me these books, and he's like, "This is what changed my life. I read these when I was down. Read them, and you know, really like pay attention."
Right.
Dude, I'm like, I couldn't read a page without highlighting stuff, and like,
Mhm.
really, it took me a while to read the books because everything's like, oh my god, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And basically, what it's about is staying in the present moment. Because he says, if you're in the past, if your mind's in the past, or your mind, even the future, could be suffering. He says, so if you're in the past or you're in the future, you're suffering.
Right.
And it's funny because I was looking at everything like with all this darkness, and I'm not going to get anything out of this. I have to be here in prison for 6 months. You know
Right,
what I mean?
right,
And so I meet this other kid, and his name's Naoki Kiramoto, and he was a running back. I forget, he went to Shawnee, Cherokee, one of those big schools up there, high school, and then he ended up playing professional football in Germany. You know what I mean? So I meet this kid, and he ended up being like another one of the most influential people I ever met in
Right.
John Brooks. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Yeah.
So he has me doing all these running back drills, and we're waking up. He had an alarm clock in there, and he would wake me up at 5 a.m. He'd be like, "Yeah, let's go up to the top floor where we're not allowed to be,
Right.
and let's watch the sun come up. The ocean's right there." You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah, you can see it on Pacific
he
Ave.
was more concentrated, even though we were in that dark place, is in the light that we could get out of it. You know what I
Right.
mean? So we wake up. We'd end up stealing peanut butter from the kitchen. We were supposed to have. We'd have to do it. It's insane. We had to. So we would skip breakfast and we run 5 flights of stairs. You know what I
Right.
mean? And
Running
at
up and
first,
down.
like
Sounds
I
like
said,
hell.
yeah. Well, at first, I'm like hurt still, so I'm just getting my body back in order and everything.
Right. Coming fresh off an overdose. Now Moto's got you.
That's
running
how
up
it
and down
always is.
the
I
stairs.
go so hard, like every time I come back, I'm like, oh, I got to get this back. You know
Right.
what I
Yeah.
mean?
You're trying to make up for lost time.
Yeah. So anyway, we're on the stairs, and to get back into the Power Now and A New Earth and Eckhart Tolle, is I'm running these stairs. Right, there's 5 flights, and when I would look up at the top stair or the top step where I had to go, I'm like, oh my god, I wanted to quit. It was overwhelming.
Right.
When I would just concentrate on that step in front of me, and this is the most simple, easiest way I came
Right.
to realize this. When I would only look at that step right in front of me, I'd be at the top. Like I'm like, damn, I'm up here already. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So staying in that present moment, you know what I mean, keeps you, sane pretty much. You know what I mean? If I'm looking too much ahead of me, I'm gonna get overwhelmed.
You're never gonna
I
get
wanna-
up those
I'm
flight
gonna-
of stairs.
I'm gonna want to quit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and that was the simplest way to realize that. But reading that book, and then, you know what I mean, Quincy was really positive and motivational in my life about staying in the present, and he would always call me out too. Like if I was,
You need
if
people
I was,
like that,
yeah,
man. You don't always like them, but you
yeah, if I was in group and I
I
started talking, I got to do this, I want to fight again, he'd be like, dude, like, where are you right now? You still have 3 months left. Like,
Right, exactly.
Get here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's funny how you just took like an actual physical, like you're actually physically going up steps,
Yeah.
and then taking that to like that cliche that people always use, just like one step at a time, like one foot in front of the
Just
other.
for today.
And but like that one foot in front of the other thing is true, and you actually brought it into a story that's like you literally were putting one foot in front of the other on the steps, and like when you're keeping focused on the step right, like that you were on, it was much easier for you.
Yeah, and Quincy would always be like, you're suffering. You know what I mean? I have another boy, man, he'd do the same thing, like, you're sick. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like,
you're sick, you're suffering.
Like, I'm looking up, I'm in a group I don't want to be in, or that's good for anything in life, standing in line, being in traffic. That's another thing. You ever drive with a person? Like, my wife does this. You know what I mean? Like, driving, and there's traffic, and she's, like, screaming at the car in front of him, like, in front of her, you know what I mean? Like, you're never going to change that. You're not going to change the traffic. You know what I mean? So
it is what it is.
It's suffering. Just be in the present moment,
right?
And
realize the situation that you're in.
Accept what is. You know what I mean? And I always, my entire life, I had a problem accepting what is.
Right.
You know what I mean? My situation, what's going on in my life,
Mm-hmm.
instead of making the best out of it. You know what I mean? And that was a huge issue with me.
Yeah, because I mean, the truth of the matter is like you can change. Like, say you're sitting in the car with your wife and she's bitching about traffic. Like, you can change like your perception, your attitude towards the traffic.
Yeah.
You can either take the traffic as like, oh fuck, now I'm gonna be late to wherever it is I'm going, when you probably should have left earlier, like knowing there's traffic, South Jersey at 5 o'clock. But anyway, or you can just like put some new music on or like turn the music off and y'all could talk or something like that. Like, I went to the bank today. I had to go to the Bank of America up in Atlantic City, and it's the 4th, so I figured I wouldn't be beat for everyone trying to cash their first of the month welfare checks in there.
Yeah.
But I guess the checks were late or something like that, or I don't know what happened. I get in line and there's like 25 people deep. So instead of being like, oh fuck, like now, I'm gonna have to be here for 35 minutes and I was supposed to be in my boy's house at 10 o'clock in the morning, I went on my phone and started doing like some research about like once I get this podcast really up and running, like how I should host it. Yeah. So instead of like sitting there stewing for 20 minutes, like I used that 20 minutes as a time to slow down and like read up on some stuff I wouldn't have.
And I bet you when you did do that, like the line was moving.
It was like I went right to the front, bro. It was Vegas. I just like all of a sudden I was just right there. I got to talk to my dad on the phone.
Yeah, you're in the present moment. That's the key. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I use it to my advantage. You know what I mean?
Because if I think about the past, especially the future's a burden too. But for me, if I think about the past, all the shit I've done, all the, you know what I mean, all the missed opportunities, that will kill me.
It's so depressing.
Yeah,
so depressing. That's why I think I started getting high. Like after the fact of when I've gotten sober again, and then went out and got high again, I think that was probably, part of it was I obviously wasn't working on myself, but another part of it I think is I was dwelling on how bad I fucked up. Yeah. And like I said, I wouldn't imagine 7.5 months ago when I'm on like East 35th Street smoking a rock in Camden, that like I'd be here with you today, like talking about some cool shit like this,
And this podcast thing is like, dude, I've been watching Joe Rogan for years. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. A lot of the stuff that I do, I got off of there. Sensory deprivation, cryotherapy, sauna. Just, I do a lot of research into why I'm sick. Not even, emotionally, spiritually, but physically, like stuff that's wrong with me. I do research
like the real chemistry, like behind it, like the biological shit.
The crazy thing is that accepting, like surrendering, like in recovery, you have to surrender.
Right.
I never wanted to surrender. I'm tough. I don't need to surrender.
Yeah, of course.
You
ain't never tapping out or throwing a flag in.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. You know what I mean? And what the heck was I just gonna say? You gotta excuse me because I've been hitting the head. Tremendous.
Potential CTE candidate.
Oh, this is
here.
what I was. Yeah, it definitely. Something's up. But surrendering to the program. You also have to surrender to like AIDS patients, for instance, right? Mm-hmm. I just saw it was on Joe Rogan's podcast. They were talking about AIDS patients live longer, not AIDS, HIV,
right? Live
longer than people.
Yeah, you were telling me this the other day.
That don't have it. Why is that? You're accepting, you're surrendering. You can't change that fact. There's not a cure. Or if there is, who's that guy that has a cure? But he bought the first Wu-Tang album.
Magic Johnson.
No. Yeah, him. But there's some dude that, I don't know if it's AIDS or whatever. He bought a Wu-Tang album and he won't release it. It's like just his.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's like not giving anybody the cure. It's like millions of dollars or something. I don't know if it's AIDS or something.
Tinfoil hat shit.
But it's some other shit. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, AIDS patients are living longer. One, because they have to. You're not changing that. Or HIV, I would say, you're not changing that. You're going to be under constant doctor care.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're getting your blood work. You're getting everything done. You know what I mean? You have to stay on top of it to make sure.
They're probably eating right too.
Yes.
Taking care of their body.
They're eating right. You're under constant doctor's care, and you surrender to the fact that you have a disease. And it's always going to be there.
It's probably, but a big part of it is they're accepting their own mortality.
Yeah.
Like, that's why everyone hates funerals, because, like, once you go to a funeral, like, you think about yourself being in the casket. And, like, you're like, wow, I'm going to die someday. That's like, I mean, granted, like, I'm sad when I go to family members' funerals, but even when, like, somebody I don't really know dies, like, I don't read the obituaries because I'm, like, thinking about, like, well, shit, what's mine going to say? Yeah. So, like, I don't really, like, everyone knows you're going to die, but you don't really think about that, like, you're actually going to die someday. Yeah. And I bet with people like those people who are HIV positive, like they're accepting the fact that like this is going to kill them. Yeah. So now they're living in the present all the time because they know like that their death is almost imminent.
Yeah, and staying on top of it. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's the other thing. Like every time I'm in a dark place, I just have to surrender. Yeah, you ever been to jail? No, right? Not yet.
The only time I've ever done in jail has been like maybe 30 something hours. And shout out to Eastern Regional Jail in Martinsburg, West Virginia. I was accused of a DUI and accused of a possession of a controlled substance, all of which I did not get convicted of. Shout out to what was that guy's name? Harley Wagner, great lawyer. If you're ever getting locked up for a DUI in West Virginia, Harley Wagner's your guy. Give him a call. Tell him I sent you. He probably doesn't know who I am, but also shout out to my parents for helping me pay for that lawyer, all of which I'm trying to pay back now.
Whenever you get in a situation to where you have to surrender to the fact that you're there, program, you could always walk out of a program, even if you do have a court order, you're eventually going to get caught, but you're going to have a warrant. You could still walk out of those doors. Now, jail is different, and you can talk to a lot of people that go to jail and they're in active addiction. That surrender to the facility makes your withdrawal less worse. It's not as bad.
I've heard people say that because it's almost the fact that you can't. I mean, I know you can get shit in jail, but it's like almost when you're in the tank, like in processing before you go in, like you're probably not going to get something in there. Yeah. You're not out in the cell block. That's really interesting.
And the same thing, like being in, I wanted to talk about that a little bit too, because on Facebook I was just talking to somebody and we were both talking about how we kind of miss it. You know what I mean? Like,
miss jail?
Yeah, and who in their right fucking mind would miss?
Yeah,
jail?
You're sick, bro. You're sick.
No, but This is the reason why. We ended up going into the work pod. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And and that the last time I went, I wasn't going through withdrawal or anything. That's the time I drank the one time and got locked up before the fight. So we ended up, I'm in fight shape. I don't want to lose that. You know what I mean? Every time I'm in jail, I find somebody that's willing to work out with me.
Push each other a little bit.
I met this kid, John Burroughs, JB, and he was in the Army. So he had that discipline ingrained in him already. Right. So every single day we got it in. We're doing drills out in the yard that nobody's ever done in that jail. I can guarantee you.
Probably no one's ever going to do them again.
No, I'm putting him on my back. I'm running with him around the whole outside perimeter of like the little basketball court. And then we would do another thing. We're doing squats with each other on our backs.
That's fucking nuts.
We're doing bear crawls through the dirt all the way across and back. And there's a table that's real slick, and it's metal out there. And we do a up, down, or a sprawl. And we jump, explode right up to the top of the table, which is probably up to my waist. You know what I mean?
3.5 feet.
And we were just talking about it's hard getting shoes in there. You're not really supposed to have shoes, but you're in a work pod, you can get access to them. So I got access to shoes for us. And,
right.
So his were like a little bit slick and didn't have a lot of grip. So he jumped up on the table, slid out, and this table's on concrete, on asphalt.
Oh shit!
Slid out, landed on his neck, bro. Gets right back up, and he's like, I gotta finish. So he finished his 3 reps. You know what I mean? And acted like he was cool, everything. He later told me he went in the shower and cried. But, yeah.
He didn't show any emotion like that.
Not only that, getting things in there, it's kind of like you're out in the wild. It's like you have to survive in there. Like, we're working out like that. We have to
get contained, but you're set free. Almost.
We have to. I made water bags that were like, it's all right. Made water bags that were so solid that we use them as medicine balls, throwing them back and forth. You could use them as a kettlebell. You know what I mean? We're doing kettlebell swings with this water bag. It was indestructible. Like, they did find one of them, and they tried to pop it with a knife and had so many layers, like, they couldn't pop it with it. Like,
what do you mean a water bag? Like, what was it made out of?
Dude, it was made out of, we had to steal trash bags.
Oh, okay.
State shirts that are almost gi material, like the kimonos we use. Right. They're really strong material, so I used like 2 of them. And I had to rip a sheet up and make like thousands of yards of rope, and wrap it around so it had a handle. Like,
it's a good way to kill time.
Yeah, like everything, and then getting sufficient amount of protein. Like, we'd have to, we get real milk. It's like a huge deal. Right. Like, I took this from the kitchen. I got 5 gallons of whole milk. You know what I mean? Right. Yeah. Okay. I got peanut butter. I got real chicken. You know what I mean? Everything else is probably basically what they give you in jail is basically they're feeding you like cattle. Like And not just in jail, because a lot of our food it's all corn and processed and mechanically separated.
Right.
Nothing's real. So, like, getting stuff in there is a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do that, it's like you accomplish the mission. We would
right.
set missions.
It's like you're getting over on somebody.
And I got that from Nalki, too, at the program. We would set missions or goals every day, and they had to be accomplished. You know what I mean? So, like, if we had five goals for our mission for that day, and we didn't accomplish 3 of them, it's a failure.
Right.
So,
yep.
And just the brotherhood and the connection. I only chilled with, and I do that everywhere I go. I was just at Seabrook House a little while ago, and same thing there. I only talked to 2 people really.
Right.
And we had these dude named Albert and a dude named Harry, and they were both older. Albert had significant clean time before, like 9 years. He was positive. He knew the big book front to back. He would call me out on stuff, and I like that. If you're gonna call me out on stuff,
at least be educated about it, right?
Yeah, and I like that because he's calling me on my own bullshit. You know what I mean? And I have to really look at myself like, what am I doing? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, when you're in darkness with a group of people, you could either choose to go with the people that, you know, aren't doing anything to better themselves, or you stick to the people that are. And even if that's 1 or 2 people, that's who you need to chill with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think there's definitely something to that. I think, you know, like, as people, we're meant to be in these, like, small, like, little packs. Like, I think it's unnatural for us to live around, you know, I mean, this Philly AC metro area, there's probably 5 million people. Yeah. And we're not, like, meant to do that. Like, I noticed when I lived down south and you're, like, in a small town, like, going to the grocery store, everyone says hello, they're friendly. Because they don't have all this, like, outside shit just, like, rocking their brain all the time. Like, it's just overstimulation. And it's like, you know, with cell phones and all this kind of internet shit, like, for what we're doing with this podcast, it's awesome. Because you can reach so many people, but it's, like, super unnatural, too. Yeah. So I was the same way every time I was in, like, a treatment center. I would always kind of just, like, click up with a few small people. And, like, that. It's not to say I wouldn't converse with other people, but, like, I kept like a small circle, which I think is important.
Connection. I also heard that on the podcast. Russell Brand is a huge person. I listen to his books right there.
Yeah. You got to give me that when you're done, man. Yeah. His podcast is awesome.
Yeah. So connection. We're meant to, like you said, to live in small villages, 75 to 100 people, and even in the chimpanzee or ape world, if it gets more than that, they usually have a separation or a conflict within the group. You know what I mean? So they separate. And the whole thing is, like I said, you might see somebody in Wawa and it's just like a hello and that's it. There's really no connection with people anymore, you know? Yeah. And that's why this thing, this AA thing, this Jiu-Jitsu thing, dude, AA, if you look at the concepts of AA and you look at the concepts of Jiu-Jitsu, it's the same thing. You know what I mean? You know, coffee commitments, like how if you're a newcomer, they want you to come in early and make coffee, right? So you get to talk to people. It breaks you out of that isolation and you feel part of the group. Jiu-Jitsu, you come in early and clean the mats, or stay late afterwards. The white belt's got to clean the mats. It's the same thing. You don't want them to feel alienated. You want them to feel like they're doing something. You want them to feel part of the group. Right. That's just one of the simpler examples of the concepts matching up.
Yeah, but I think those bare bones concepts are really like what captures the whole essence of it. That's why, that's why I like this whole podcasting thing, because it's like, there's human connection here, and now we're gonna broadcast it to other people, and they feel connected. Like, I listen to Rogan's podcast, Duncan Trussell's. I listen to this Tinfoil Hat podcast, and like just to name a few. But it's almost like I feel like I know like Rogan and Brand because I listen to them so much. It's like and they talk like I assume like how they talk like to other people. You know what I mean? It's really just them having conversations with their friends, and it's broadcasted. So it's like that's why I think these podcasts are so fucking cool. That it's like you can listen and almost be like involved in like their human connection that they got.
Yeah, it is a connection for sure.
So, what are you doing? What are you doing now? Like, I know me and you talk about like sobriety stuff, but like, what's your day looking like? Like, what are you trying to do like consistently to keep your your body in shape, your mind in shape, and your spirit in shape?
Right now, we do the AA thing. You know what I mean? That's huge. That's number one. If I don't stay on top of that, everything else is bullshit. It's gonna crumble. Right. I could be doing like you talked about that fight that I had at the Borgata against Sean Teed, who was supposed to be a prospect, and I just thought this kid was not like on any kind of level that me or my other boys who were on as heavyweights. And I had and this is the thing. Oh, training with Nalki, right? Doing all these drills. I turned.
You're talking about moto, right?
Yeah.
So what's funny is me and Alan figured this out the other day. I actually lived in a sober house in South Philly, and some of my friends were friends with this kid, Moto, who unfortunately he passed away, right?
Yeah. And a lot of his concepts were from this dude TJ Russell, and TJ's just the spiritual warrior. If I had to. And I don't even think I've met TJ in person, just on Facebook, and I see what he posts. He's out like I am in Avalon, like every day, skimboarding with no wetsuit.
Savage.
Yeah, just spirit, all about nature and spirituality. And dude, people like that, you can see it in their face.
You can, dude. You really can.
And being a fighter, I can judge. I can look in a room, especially I did it the other day, and I can tell who's no.
Right.
I can tell who's afraid.
Oh, it's so easy to tell.
I can tell who's afraid.
Right.
I can tell if somebody's confident in themselves in their recovery. You know what I mean? And being a fighter lets me do that. And people that are spiritually awakened, like look at Russell Brand, like how like he's high sober. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And we have incidents like that in like Muay Thai. You know what I mean? In Jiu-Jitsu, it's like you're high sober. You know what I mean? Like you would do things, you're outgoing, you're not being sober. You don't have to be, just no fun and everything's work, step work and this and that. You got to live your life. And that's what I think is hugely important about what Ian's doing with that Surfside house.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's, I didn't even know, like I would hear him speak at Seabrook House. And I'm like, dude, I got to connect with this dude because not just even when he speaks, like everybody would look forward to Wednesdays for him to come in.
Right. Either they look forward to it or they hate it.
Well, yeah.
It's one or the other.
If you look forward to it, if you really want to change. You know what I mean?
Yep.
If you know you're just going in there for an oil change and you're just going to do your little
you don't want to hear the truth.
20 days and you're going to get high, you don't give a fuck. You know what I mean?
You don't want to hear the truth.
But the way he walked around the room and included everybody, the way he stops and he'll make eye contact and talk, he's a really good speaker. You know what I mean? So that was attractive about him, and I wanted to be like him. That's why I knew that I wanted to go to the home group that I was going to. You know what I mean? And yeah, just being a fighter, you could pick up on people, and nowadays I only want to be around people that can better my life. You know what I mean?
You're keeping that connection small.
That connection, like a group of people that are killers, basically. That even in jiu-jitsu, like I train with a bunch of cops and a bunch of people that are positive influences in the community now, and it like brings me up. You know what I mean?
Right.
Being in that. And it don't matter if you're a cop. It doesn't matter if you're a criminal, a felon. It doesn't matter if you're a doctor, lawyer. Anybody can come to jiu-jitsu or Muay Thai, and you're a family. You have that common interest. You know what I mean?
Right.
And the same thing with AA, like all these principles. You know what I mean? Like you're like connected like a little family. You know what I mean? And that's what we're missing. So that's why the program works.
Why it works so well, and it's amazing that like you're doing your jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai, like it gives you like both that like peace of mind and that connection, but also like you're totally just trashing your body, and I mean trashing in a good way. You're just like cutting your body out, and it's like you're staying in that good like physical shape, and it's so important. They talk about in AA that your body, mind, and spirit all need to be like on equal sides of a triangle, and it's like if you're you're working your spirit in AA, and then you're working your body and your mind over in jiu-jitsu, like they all kind of connecting together. And I know to kind of wrap it up here, you've talked to me about doing like your Kundalini,
yoga.
your yoga and breathing exercises, and you've talked to me in the past that you've gotten to do like float tanks too.
Yeah.
Like what the hell is that like? I've heard about float tanks all the time, and I had a teacher, this guy named John Stewart over at Camden County College, and he actually studied under
the originator. What's his name?
God, dude, he's killing me. Not Leary. John Lilly.
John Lilly.
He was like one of Lilly's proteges.
Yeah.
And I would go into this class, and it was supposed to be like a Western civilization class about like ancient Egypt, and like I don't even know what it was about. I was getting stoned the whole time I was there. But he would come in and he would just talk about like shooting ketamine with like John Lilly and like going into these float tanks, and I was so young, I didn't really know what like he was talking about. And then like after hearing Rogan and the guy who builds his float tanks out there for him in California, I've always been interested. And there's a place up in Galloway that I'm hoping I can go up and see soon, and eventually, hopefully, have
Yeah, I
him
think
on
it's
this
called
podcast.
Staying Afloat. I contacted them via Facebook. I want to see maybe if we can get some sponsorship thing.
Right.
Throw their name on my patch and really promote it because it's something I believe in. And if it's something you believe in, it's really easy to promote.
Right, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, because it's attraction.
Maybe if they want to sponsor this podcast, Stay Afloat, we're looking for sponsorship.
But anyway, yeah, I do this Kundalini type yoga, and really I've picked up on it through hearing about it on Rogan's podcast, but also Russell Brand, and also Hickson Gracie does it. And they call it like fire breathing. I did it in the steam room the other day, and it launches you into.
Yeah, you said you were just sent off into different ways.
It's like if I could do it on the mic, it's like like that, and you're basically pumping a bunch of oxygen into your lungs. And Hickson, if you ever seen The Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton, Hickson Gracie's on there trying to teach him not to turn into the Hulk, and he's teaching him these breathing exercises, and that's what it is. And so I do that. The Kundalini yoga, look it up. You can do it by yourself on YouTube. It's a lot of breathing.
Now, do you have to be doing like yoga poses while you're doing this, or
yeah,
can you just...
there are. Well, you can do it without yoga poses. Just standing.
The Kundalini is just the breathing part, though, right?
No, it's everything.
It's everything.
Yeah, and fasting before you do it, not really having
right.
anything in your
Because I think they
stomach.
say that about the float tanks too. Like you shouldn't eat and you shouldn't have like caffeine before you go in.
You're mentally clear when you go in. Float tank sensory deprivation is huge. The first time I went in there, I kind of bugged out, had to get out for a second when I went in Philly, and then I went back in. Takes you into another dimension. There's brain spotting. Brain spotting really was effective for me. It's like they have a wand, and they stimulate both palms of your hands, both sides with headphones of your brain. And they have a little wand, and your eyes twitch at a certain part where there's trauma. And it sounded crazy. This dude at Seabrook did it, George. I thought,
right? Yeah. I know George, dude. Yeah, he's good though. He's got good shit.
I'm like, fuck this dude. I'm not gonna get anything out of this. Ended up crying, tears. Like, I never cried like this in my life, bro. The whole table was filled with tears. I'm like, where's all this coming from? You know what I mean?
Flushing
and
out.
It was something I didn't even realize was bothering me. I didn't even remember it. It came up, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because we block trauma out.
Well, we have all these external stimuli that fucks with us, you know what I mean? And we can never be alone with ourselves. And that's what the float tank's about, is about you don't feel your body, you're alone with your mind. That's when things can come in, you know what I mean? And that's when you could get rid of them and wipe them away.
Right.
And I do the cryotherapy. I go in the water. It could be February. I go in for 3 minutes, warm up, and then I go in for another 3 minutes again. And what that does, it draws all your blood to your major organs because your body thinks you're going to die. It also takes the lactic acid, what causes soreness, and it pumps, when you warm up, pumps fresh blood out.
Okay.
Huge. And not only that, Van Gogh, when he was going crazy, they put him in an asylum, and they would run that cold water through, kind of the same thing.
Sounds terrible.
Well, it is. But he wrote in his journals that how mentally clear he was and how better he felt after doing it.
It's like when you jump into a fucking freezing cold pool, you automatically feel like refreshed. You know what I mean? You jump in the ocean like that.
The other thing I do is go to Dr. Greenberg, who is an amazing chiropractor. You know what I mean?
Right.
And he's got a hyperbaric chamber there, and that's known to cure all kinds of stuff. My wife's dad just
Are you in water?
No, you're in a chamber like
it's like an ice chamber, right?
No, this is just oxygen and altitude. It has to do with pumping all this oxygen into your blood,
right?
And it completely heals you. Like, you could be sore, like your hamstring. You could do legs. You know what I mean? You go in the hyperbaric chamber. The next day you wake up, you're healed. You know what I mean? It's just it's crazy. You know what I mean? So and the shakes I learned from Rogan. Kale, ginger, turmeric, garlic. You molest the garlic. My friends make fun of me because I said that before.
Molesting your garlic. You're masturbating your garlic.
Yeah, you got to cut it up.
Garlic masturbation.
You have to cut it up and let it sit 10 to 15 minutes because it thinks it's being eaten by an insect.
Right.
So what that does, it releases this crazy anti-inflammatory property. So
you eat it to ward off the insect.
Yeah, so but it when you eat it in your body, it's good for inflammation and all kinds of other crazy stuff. You know what I mean? So it's huge. This is all the stuff that I have to do, so I don't fucking take pain pills. You know what I mean? Yeah, no, for real. Because if I don't do this shit, I'm going to be in severe pain with the training. I'm already injured. I've herniated disc from an accident. But what makes it worse is sitting and doing nothing. It makes it, I have arthritis. When I go to stand up, I won't be able to stand. I have to stay active. When you stop moving, you die. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And you could call it suffering. You could call it pain. What did DMX say? He said to live is to suffer. Yep. To survive, that's the fine meaning in the suffering. And I never even got that with that Slippin' song, but that's really what it is. You're going to suffer in your life, but what's the meaning behind it? Are you suffering for no reason?
Right.
Are you sitting on a couch suffering in pain because my back hurts or I'm depressed? Or are you suffering because you're trying to make yourself better and get what you want out of life? And getting what you want out of life is for me, that's not, I used to think that was the goal, what I wanted, but it's actually how many people can you help? You know what I mean? Through Jiu-Jitsu, through Muay Thai, just talking to somebody. You know, Tom the Blast is somebody huge that I follow on Facebook and I listen to, and he's always posting stuff about helping other people. You know what I mean? And that's what it is. And not only does it make you feel good, you actually made a difference. You know what I mean? And I think that's huge for people in recovery and, you know.
Just people in general, right?
In general. You know what I mean? How many people are walking around, you say hi to them, they won't even say hi back.
Yeah,
you know
100%.
I mean? And then I used to let that bother me. I'm just like, all right, that dude's sick. You know what I mean? He's suffering.
Right, and that's that's one of the goals I'm trying to do with this podcast, man. Is like, you know, if somebody can get some sort of like help or insight into really anything from like what we just talked about, like that's like really kind of the goal. And I always said I wanted to work somewhere where I can just drive around and get coffee or get lunch with people and get paid for it. And I think this is like kind of something like that, like be able to go around and talk to people, and like just kind of like get a little insight into their life and like either use that to help me or like, you know, record this and throw it up on the internet and see if it can help somebody else.
And that's what I'm trying to do too through my Muay Thai classes, and you know what I mean. Now we're gonna do a Muay Thai class for people in recovery, and that's huge. That connection, everything like that, and you know, it's all around good for everybody. And I think that down in Florida, it's the recovery capital of the world. They do all this stuff. You know what I mean? And on the East Coast, it wasn't really like that. Now I think they're starting to realize that exercise and you know, high intensity exercise is good for people in recovery. So it's all around awesome.
Yeah, man. Well, Alan, dude, I want to thank you so much for talking with me today. If anybody got anything, it's work out, eat right, work on your mind, work on your body, work on your spirit. I just want to say thank you again to my Uncle Joe, who put together a computer for me that I'm going to upload this podcast through, and my buddy John Douglas for giving me the equipment. So please tune into the Hakuna Licata Podcast, and we'll see you next time.
609 Jiu-Jitsu.
Plug. Thanks again.